All right, we are live over there. Let me just make sure that we are live over here. Make sure. Hey, what's up, everyone? Okay, we are live. So happy Thursday, everybody. So good to see you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stephanie McPhail, and I specialize in helping women and actually men as well to heal from the pre-divorce all the way until post-divorce. So anywhere on that journey, wherever you are at, whether you're thinking about ending the relationship or you're already going through the divorce, you're on the other side looking to heal, or you're looking to date after a toxic relationship, I can help you with all of that. So I wanted to kind of come on today and just kind of chat with you. I hope everybody got the message. I asked everyone to bring their drink of choice. So if you have, I have my, of course it's a girls' night, so this is what I got for me. Whatever it is that you would like to drink, whether it's a glass of wine or a cup of tea or whatever it is. But I wanted to come on and just have like a frank talk with you. I just wanted to be able to chat and hang out, get to know all of you, and hopefully get for you to get to know me a lot better. I had someone the other day that said to me, it's really scary to go and get help when you're thinking about these relationships. And they gave a really great example, which I'm going to share with you. If you ever go to the doctor, and when the doctor goes to you and says, okay, how often do you drink? And of course, we know the right answer should be like, well, I never do, or I drink, only one drink a day, or whatever the number is that you say. You're not really always forthcoming because you're afraid that you're going to be judged. You're afraid that you're going to be looked at in a negative way for giving the answer. But we all know that being open and honest is really the best way to get help and get the support that you actually really need. And so my thought was, I wanted you to know a little bit about how, when I say this is a safe place for you to share, I really want you to feel that. I want you to understand how much of a non-judgmental space it is for you to get that support and to heal. Because my big thing is, all I really care about is I would like as many people to heal and create their most amazing lives as possible. That is my goal. That's what I'm hoping every single time I talk to any of my clients, anytime I hop on any of these calls. My hope is always to get as many people as I possibly can living their best lives. And so I kind of wanted to just sit down with you and just be able to answer any questions. So if you have questions, put them in the comments. I am open book. It's not like you have to, again, you don't have to worry about asking, can I ask this question? Whatever questions you have, go ahead and ask them. And I'm going to share just kind of a little bit about me. And then if there's any questions that come up, feel free to ask those questions. So, all right. So is there anything before we dive into it? I see a bunch of people on over there. Very cool. I am streaming on a few different places, so hopefully everybody can see me. It still looks like it. Oh, there we go. All right. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that everybody could see me. Instagram, cool. All right. Facebook, looks like everyone can see me. Okay. So I was someone who grew up in a military family. My dad was in the Air Force. He's actually retired captain in the Air Force. He used to move around. We used to move around every several years. So we got very used to being taken up out of our roots, out of our comfort zone, and moving to a new place and having to make all new friends and to meet all new people. And we moved from place to place until we finally made it to New York. And I had a really tough time getting used to New York, where I was used to being the one that had friends and was easy to make friends. And when I moved to New York in fifth grade, I had a really, really, really tough time. There was a lot of bullying and things were not great. And then on top of that, the stuff at home wasn't so great. So dad was very, very strict. So, captain of the Air Force, so military guy, very strict. But he was very codependent. And he wanted to take care of my mom and make sure she was well taken care of. And he also had a temper. So, but the good thing about it was that I always knew that A plus B equaled C. My mom, on the other hand, probably undiagnosed mental illness, borderline personality disorder, potential narcissistic qualities. And she was never happy. You never knew what you were going to get. Sometimes it would be easy and fun, and she was so loving and sweet. And then other times it was all going to be thrown back in our faces. And I don't know if any of that at all resonates for you. But growing up in a really strict Christian household, It felt very, it was very regimented. And again, we went to church every Sunday. We were part of all these different things for church. But the reason, one of the good things for that is that church became that place where whenever we would move from one place to the other, we would always have that new family, have those new people. So that's how I grew up. That's what I got used to doing and how life was. And so, going to New York and trying to make all these new friends, like I said, I had a hard time. I had a really hard time finding my way. Again, a lot of bullying, not a really great time. High school, good grades, but I hung out with like the kids that were getting by. I was friendly with a lot of different types of people. I wanted so badly to fit in, and I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And I felt like the people that were the cool ones were all dating people, and I really wanted to date people, and I never felt like I was chosen. And so my mom, being so overly fixated on looks, I always thought that it's because I'm not attractive enough. I'm not good looking enough. There's something lacking in me of why these guys that I like are not interested in me. So I started really lowering my standards of who I was interested in dating. And some of the guys that I was interested in, they were like, oh, I just thought you were out of my league. Which sounded cool, but I was always like, how come like none of the really great ones are thinking that I'm what someone to ask out or, have relationships with. So I got into a long-term relationship that ended up going very south. It did not go so well at all. That ended up, we were living together. We owned a home together. Things went really bad in that relationship, and I held on way too long. We were not married, but we were living together, and I didn't know when to let go. And that was the first long-term relationship that really was like, I held on way longer than I needed to. I tried way harder than I should have. And I had put his name on the mortgage, even though I was the one who put all the money down. It was all of my investments. I was the one trying to get him to do the things he said he was going to do, which he never wanted. And of course, I was the nagger because I would not let him just like go smoke weed with his friends and go hang out. And it was terrible because on one side, him and I were really great because we were super fun. We were the house, like I was 21 when I bought my house. My first house, I was 21 years old. And, I was the house that everyone went to go hang out with. So we would like go into clubs into New York City. We were getting into clubs before I was even 21. We would go to places. We were the house that everyone came back to. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 19, and I never looked back because I didn't want to deal with what was going on there. I wanted to be self-sufficient. I wanted to be able to take care of myself. And when I ended up in this toxic relationship with my first long-term relationship, my first long-term boyfriend, I didn't know how to get out of it. I knew that it wasn't the right person for me, but I stuck around way too long, kept hoping that things would change, only for it to be more of the same. And things got worse and worse and worse until it actually finally got physical. And one night, after just another day of him not coming home, he actually, it was like, I guess 3:00 in the morning, he got home, accused me of cheating on him, even though I was in bed in my pajamas, accused me of cheating on him, grabbed my phone out of my hand, called everyone that I knew. I was so embarrassed, but then called one of my friends, and she was smart enough to actually call the police because she was fearful for my safety. Called the police. They sent the police over, and I was mortified. I was so embarrassed. What are the neighbors going to think? What are people going to think of me? And police came. They asked him to leave. And one of the officers said to me, "You're young. Why is this your life? Don't continue living this way." And I was like, you know what? You're right. I can't continue living in this way where I am constantly on eggshells. He's not what I want. I know he's not what I want. I need to finally end it. And it hurt me. It felt like I was letting him down because he needed me. It felt like, am I so broken that I can't help this person? Like there was all these emotions that went on, even though really I knew that he wasn't the right person for me. I knew that he was nowhere nearly as successful as I was, never was going to be. He had no aspirations. He really just liked coming home from work. He was an electrician, coming home, smoking weed with his friends, coming back to our place. And that was his life. That's what he wanted. And I wanted bigger. I wanted more for myself. So I did finally end that relationship, and it was 8 years, or just shy of 8 years. I ended that, and I said, you know what? I am never going to get into another unhealthy relationship again. And I don't know if this resonates for anybody who's watching this right now, but we tell ourselves that, right? We're like, I am never going to do that again. I know better. I am never going to get into another unhealthy relationship again. But the problem is that I didn't realize I had all this unresolved stuff from growing up and not feeling good enough and all that kind of stuff. So I was like in my late 20s. I didn't know how to date. I had been in a relationship for a really long time. And so I met this guy who seemed to check off most of the boxes, at least on paper. And I was getting older. I was afraid that I was going, like, all my friends were getting married. I was feeling, and I was like 28. I felt so old. And I was like, I need to settle down. This is the best guy I found so far. Maybe my standards are too high. I'm going to just see how it goes with this guy and see if we can make it work. He pushed to move in way more quickly than I was comfortable. He love bombed, told me all of the things, good salesman, knew what to say. We got married in a castle. And the night of our wedding, he strangled me until I thought I was going to die. And because of my upbringing, of being told that once you get married, you stay married, you make it work, you support each other, I was so embarrassed as well. I was so ashamed that I put myself in this position, that my family had come to this wedding that was someone who had tried to kill me. And he said all of the things, and I stayed. I stayed trying to make it work. I stayed thinking, he promised me he's never going to do it again. He told me that if he does, that I can leave him. And it got worse. It got worse. And the worse it got, the more I lost myself. The more that I thought everything I've done before is wrong. I am so messed up. He manipulated me, made me feel like I wasn't good enough because that was already a wound that I had, and just continued to push into that and make me feel bad. I would, oh wait, hold on. I would make him leave because I would tell him I can't put up with this. We went to therapy. We did all of that. And then I would let him back in when he told me that he had changed and things were going to get better. And of course he hadn't. It was a lie. It was all just to get back in and then keep doing exactly what he was doing. And he told me later, like the points that he had sanity, he would say, well, every time you let me back in, I lost more and more respect for you. I knew that I could manipulate you. And so we did that over and over again. I kept kicking him out. He'd get an apartment, then he would do all the right things, say all the right things, and come back, and I would let him back in. And that went on for a good amount of time, until one day I was like, wait a minute. I am looking at the fact that I'm getting older and older, because that was one of the things I was worried about. I'm getting older and I wanted to have kids and I wanted all these other things for my life. And I felt like I was in survival mode. Like everything was about trying to get through, walking on eggshells, wondering when he was going to lose his temper again. And the weird thing is that I was taking care of everybody else. I was taking care of all the other friends that I had. I was the go-to for my whole life. I was always the go-to in my family as the oldest, and, the go-to to take care of things. And so being that person and taking care of things, I didn't want anyone to know how bad things were for me at home. I didn't want anyone to know. I was so, so, so embarrassed. And I realized after every year going by, my birthday's in December, so it's the end of the year, and he ruins another birthday, he ruins another holiday, and I'm here wasting my life thinking I'm getting older and older. And my mom said to me at one point, are you going to live this way for the rest of your life? And I thought, this would be terrible. If I live this way for the rest of my life, this really would be terrible. And I remember thinking to myself, if I was on my deathbed, will I be okay? Will I be okay with this being all that I've accomplished, was just surviving in this relationship, trying to make him happy? And I realized that trying to handle him and whatever hidden addictions that he was having, his mental health issues, him literally doing everything to hurt me, both physically, emotionally, while I kept giving and giving and he kept taking and taking, I was a shell of myself. I literally didn't know who I was anymore. And I said, so December comes, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't waste any more time. Then February comes and I'm like, I've got to make a change. I can't do this anymore. And then Cinco de Mayo ended up being the day that I decided to end that relationship. And I moved out. I moved in with a friend. I slept on her couch. Things were bad. I mean, they were not good for a little while. I knew that he was going to try to get back with me, but I knew that I had to make that choice. I couldn't do it anymore. And I remember crying all the way through as I sold my wedding ring and my engagement ring. I knew I had to do it. He complained that he didn't have any money. So I was like, take the money from the engagement ring, take this so that you can go and find a place, anything to get out of there. And I finally got him out. And then he decided to, after he got out, we were divorced. He decided, well, actually, I ended up getting a DWI, which he called the police on because he was trying to get back at me. And yes, I had been drinking, but he was kept pushing me all night to drive to him, kept pushing, pushing, pushing. And I didn't have my voice yet. I was people pleasing so badly that I was like, okay, let me get there. Let me go see you. And I realized that I couldn't. And I pulled over pretty quickly, like right around the block, and said, I can't do this. And he called the police and had them come to me. So I spent the night in jail. So I have, again, I got to hang out with some of the people that are in a prison. Not very fun, or I guess in jail, because it was only there one night. That was not fun. I do not judge people that are going through any of these things, because they get us to a place that you never could have imagined. I was in detention once in high school. And here I was, like, this is like my low point in my life, where here I am in a cell with all these people that are like used to going into jail. And I'm thinking, this is my life. I can't believe, how did I get here? And so in that time, I was like, all right, I got to start making some changes. And even then, I thought I could do it by myself. I was like, I'm going to just never do it again. I had to go to probation. I had to like go do all these things. My ex is trying to get back in the house with me. I'm trying to date. All these guys are not being so great. I'm getting more and more depressed. Things aren't going well. I meet a guy that I had known from middle school. We're hot and heavy. Maybe this is the guy. This is the change that I'm looking for. And he ghosts me. And I lose it. I go completely dark night of the soul. Like, can't sleep, can't eat, feeling awful. I am basically surviving on wine and crackers, because that's it. I'm sleeping 3 hours a night. I'm making it to work. I always showed up to work. I wasn't missing days. I was getting teacher of the month. All these wonderful things were happening to me at work. And at home, again, I was having these two different lives where I was showing up. I mean, I was missing some days, don't get me wrong, but I was showing up to work and I was at home, literally in the fetal position, crying myself to sleep without being able to eat, without being able to sleep, and just feeling awful. And all of these things started to go wrong. My grandmother passed away. This is after the ghosting. My grandmother passed away. I got pink eye after that, but I had a blood clot in my arm. I had all of these health issues that came up. They all were showing me how bad my life was. And it was like, everyone was like worse and worse. And at one point I was like, am I being punked? Like, it can't be possible that all these terrible things are going on. And I'm just still feeling really, really crappy about everything. And again, it's just more reasons to just feel awful. And I'm thinking, like, is this really the best that I can get? And I ended up in the hospital with a sprained ankle. And the school called my ex-husband, and he shows up in the emergency room. The doctor comes in and the doctor says, you sprained your ankle pretty severely. You're going to have to stay off your feet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? Like, seriously? But the first thing that came to my mind is I heard this voice that said, you need to be your own knight in shining armor. You have to stop waiting for someone to come and save you, and you need to save yourself. And I heard that voice. And I thought, okay, what I've been doing this whole time, and really I was in the emergency room, is sitting there, and I realized that the whole time I was waiting for someone else to come and save me, and I had to do it myself. But that didn't mean me do it all by myself. That meant that I needed help from other people to be able to help me through it. And so, strong, independent woman that was taking care of everybody else, suddenly I got to a point where I had, like I said, I had pink eye, I had a sprained ankle, I was going through a divorce, I had a DWI. Like, the universe was like, hello, you are going to get help, and you're going to do what you need to do. And so I had to get help. I had no choice. I was given no choice but to go and get help and support. And so I went out and I started to make it my mission to do everything I could to learn about me, to figure out who I was, what I wanted from my life. And I was supposed to go to Peru. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Peru is because they were doing ayahuasca retreats. And I don't know if you've ever heard of ayahuasca, but it's supposed to be being able to really like dive into your subconscious. And it's really supposed to be a connection with spirit and all of that. So I went and found someone who did ayahuasca in Pennsylvania. I went and did ayahuasca, and I was like, and it was just like mind blowing. I had such clarity of things that I needed to do. And I started to just open up to what was possible for me. And I started to do things where if it felt good, I went and tried those things. If it felt bad, I started to stay away from those things. I started to find my voice. I started to be able to speak up for myself. And so in those times, I learned who I really was. Instead of trying to make everybody else happy, I was able to focus on myself and make myself happy. So I got to a point where I no longer cared about being in a relationship. I wasn't looking for a relationship anymore. Where like old party girl, hippie, I'm always a hippie at heart. But the hippie me, the party girl, the raver girl, all those things that had been me in the past, where I was looking for attention, looking for other people, now I was only concerned about taking care of myself. And it felt very different because I was still this empathetic, caring person, but I was making myself a priority for the first time in my life. I was making myself feel good. And I started creating a life that I was excited about. One where I was going on adventures. I traveled cross country by myself. I slept in my car. I slept in tents. I couch surfed. I traveled through Europe. Like I've done all of these different really cool things because I was looking to rediscover who I was. And I created this life that I just loved, that I was so happy with. And I said, you know what? Even though I had wanted children, even though I wanted to be in a relationship, I'm literally letting all of that go. I'm going to just let the universe, because that was one of the things that I started to reconnect to. I'd grown up in a Christian conservative family. And one of the things I had lost was being connected to something higher than myself. And so one of the things that I got to reconnect to was my spiritual self. So I would call myself, when I say God, I say universe. It's that connection to something greater than myself. And so I reconnected to that spiritual side of myself. I reconnected to all the areas of myself. And I said, I'm going to just follow with what feels right, what feels good. And I just started doing that. And because of that, I got to a place where I felt free. And I was okay with letting go of not being in a relationship anymore. I was okay with being single forever. I'm not saying I didn't grieve it for a little bit, but I let all of those needs go. And as I did, things started attracting towards me. When I became less needy, when I became less wanting of all these things, they started to just show up in my life. And I started to run into people that I needed to talk to, and things would just show up. Things were just magically happening. And I ended up, I went on a date with this guy that I met online. So I'm not anti-online dating. I met a guy online, met him. I was dating some other people. And I was like, you know what? I really like this guy. I think he might be the one, but I don't know. I really like being single. So I almost broke it off. And I said, you know what? With his big blue eyes looking at me, like, just with such adoration. And I said, okay, let me give this guy a chance. Maybe he's not going to be like the other ones where he's going to change and become something different after I start a relationship with. Maybe he is the person that I've been looking for, because I felt that if I let him go, I could tell already that it was something that I was going to regret. So I gave him a chance. And now the cool thing is that because of that chance, I now am married for almost 10 years. We have 2 beautiful children. All the things that I wanted, that I was trying so hard to hold on to and grasp at, they all came naturally when I stopped trying to force things that were not working. When I let go. And professional women, like it is difficult for us because we're the go-getters. We make things happen. But sometimes letting go is the best thing we can possibly do. We can't control things. We can't make people act the way we want them to. You can be, and again, my first boyfriend loved pot. My husband, he loved popping pills. I didn't want them to do any of those things. I wanted them to get their acts together. I wanted them to be the person that I saw the possibilities of them being, but they weren't. And they never would be. And I was sitting around wasting my life and time and my energy trying to make them into something that they were not. And I was going to keep wasting my time if I kept trying to make them into that person that they were not. I wonder how many people that are watching right now are saying to themselves, hey, I've done that. I've seen the possibility in someone and I haven't let go. I felt the heavy burden of being married and not wanting to end that marriage because of religious reasons, because of letting people down, because I'm afraid. Or I've known that relationship wasn't good for me, but I was afraid to say no. I was afraid to hurt them. I was afraid of being alone. All those different fears that we have that come up. But the sooner that we are honest with ourselves, the sooner we can let go of all those things that we need to try to fix. And instead we can actually allow the good things that are possible for us to come to us naturally, as opposed to trying to force. So I don't know if that helps anybody. I mean, tell me what you think. I'd love to, this is supposed to be a girls' night. I know I just talked for a while, but I'd love to hear your perspective. Is any of those pieces, does any of those things stand out for you at all? Does that, um, I mean, I see it's Amy says she's been there, that trying to control, that trying to, the potential is hard, right? And it's so interesting. A lot of the people that we work with, they are animal lovers. They are natural caretakers. And, it's great. I just had this conversation with a client of ours today is that you can be a caretaker, you can be a giver, but at home, you need to be in a place where you feel calm and safe. The caretaking and the helping is where volunteer work happens, is where your business happens. It's where your job happens, where other things happen. But home should really be your safe space. You should not feel like you have to lose yourself in order to be in your home. You should be able to be like, this is your safe area. You should be able to be completely free to say what you want, to be who you are without anyone telling you that you are not attractive enough, you're not good enough, you're not enough for them, because it's never about you being not good enough for them. It's about them trying to put you down to make themselves feel better or not being the right fit for each other. Sometimes we're just not the right fit for each other, and that's part of what it is too. Cassie said, yes, trying to let go and finding it impossible. It's hard. And that's actually one of the things, that I'm really like, that I love helping people through, which a lot of people don't because it's not easy, but it's that addiction. It's the addiction to those highs and lows. I mean, my ex-husband, so I said I'm a former like raver girl, hippie chick and all that kind of stuff. I would still say I'm still a hippie chick. And still the raver girl is still inside of me. But one of the cool things about my ex-husband is that we used to go to Fish shows. Fish is one of my favorite bands. He introduced me to Fish. I actually really liked Fish when I was in high school, had no idea who they were. I just knew a few songs and I remember really liking them. And then when I started dating my husband, he just obsessively talked about Fish all the time. And I was like, oh, whatever. They were on hiatus. They got back together. And actually, when they got back together is actually one of the times when my ex and I reconnected. And so when the party, when the fun, when those things were going on, he was so fun. When other people were around, he was so much fun. But then we would go home and he was terrible. And so because of that, like in public, and I mean, in public, he'd be nice to other people and fun. Sometimes he'd say nasty things to me about like, don't talk or whatever, but he'd be so nice and fun to everybody else. And so I would have this really good time and things would be really fun and exciting. And then I'd go home to there being a big fight, or there, him ruining the occasion, whatever it was. So those extreme highs and lows create an addiction. So our brain actually starts wanting to go to those good parts. We're looking for those dopamine hits. So we are specifically, our brain gets addicted to the highs and lows. And that's really a big issue because it feels like we're dying when we let go of that relationship, when really the best thing for us is to let go of it. But that's why getting help, Cassie, is really important, is to make sure we're getting help to let go, because our brain lies to us over and over again about why we need to stay. Sharon said, been struggling with being single. I want to let go of the fear I won't find anyone that's right for me. I want to be okay with being single till someone grows up and shows up in my life. Well, if you're waiting for someone to grow up, I don't know. How about someone that is already there? Someone that's already living the life that works with you. And so, this is the exciting part, Sharon, is that you don't want to wait for someone to grow up and show up in your life. You want to create a life that you're okay if you don't ever find that person. And I know for some of us, that's like, oh, I don't really like that. I don't want to be single. I'm a relationship person. I don't want to be alone. I understand that. But when we come from the place of, I need to be in a relationship in order to be happy. I need someone in my life. I need someone to cuddle with. Again, it's nice, but do you need it? The things that you can take care of on your own, like get yourself a mechanical friend, hang out with your girlfriends and go do fun adventures, go do other things, have a group of people that you enjoy spending time with. Being single is actually beautiful and amazing. And it's way better than being like feeling alone when you're in a relationship. I mean, it's one of the worst things I've ever felt. I remember I was reading a book. It was the Twilight series. So I remember reading the Twilight series. So that shows you it was a little while ago. And I remember my husband always wanted to sit and watch TV. I'm not a sit around and watch TV person. I just am not. And so he wanted to sit and watch TV every night, and that was not exciting to me. So I sat down and was reading a book. And I just remember even like the stuff he was watching, I was like, none of this is stuff that I'm interested in watching. None of this is even good. Like, and I couldn't talk to him about anything because I was so afraid of walking on eggshells that I would say the wrong thing and there'd be a fight, and that he'd become physical again, or he'd threaten me, or, whatever. And so I couldn't even talk to him. And I just remember reading, like curling up in this book and thinking, I want someone to love me that way. That felt terrible. Where being single and being able to have the freedom to create what I wanted was a completely different feeling. So, I want you to start thinking about how to make a life where being single is a beautiful, wonderful gift, as opposed to this is torture and I can't wait for this to be over because I'm waiting for someone to come into my life. When you're waiting for someone to come into your life, you're going to end up with another unhealthy person because that neediness attracts those types of toxic people. If you're looking for someone to come and swoop you off your feet, someone to come and take care of you, they can very easily be someone who is going to manipulate you from that narcissistic perspective because they are takers. So if you're a giver, you're a caretaker, you're looking to take care of someone, all that, then the takers are going to come. I want you to imagine what it would feel like if there were two givers that came together. How beautiful would that be? And then I have a question for anybody who's watching too. How are you at receiving? Because I was so good at giving all the time, I was really not so great at receiving. And because of that, that's why I was accepting such toxic people in my life, because I was great at giving, overflowing, giving until I was empty, but I wasn't really good at accepting help or asking for help. And that's why the universe gave me the beautiful gifts of making my world terrible. So I had to ask for help. I think learning how to be very happy single is a prerequisite before we should start dating again. Cassie said, can they ever change? Why not? Everyone says no. Okay, so great question. I kept hoping that if I explained to my ex enough times, he would finally get it and he would stop being the terrible person that he was. The only way that any of us can change is if we work really hard at it. We take responsibility for what's gone wrong, and then we do everything in our power to make those changes. And those changes, I say changing hurts a little. It's not easy. It hurts. But what hurts way more is staying the same if we're not happy with where we are. So the other person that you're in a relationship with that you're hoping will change into the person that you want, what if they don't want to? What if they're going to tell you over and over again that they're going to change, but they're not? Most of the time when people get to couple counseling, one person is trying really hard in counseling to make it work. The other person is doing the same damn thing, and they're hoping that the other person will give up and just not try, not push them anymore. Like, oh, I went to counseling. Isn't that enough? No, now you have to actually take responsibility for your actions and make the changes that you said you're going to make. These toxic people don't want to make those changes. They don't want to take any responsibility. Oh. There it was. They don't want to take any responsibility. They might not want to change. That might be the best they're going to get in their lives. My ex-husband, he's still the same way. He hasn't changed at all. He's still to this day. We've been divorced since 2012, so it's been a while. He still to this day blames me for why he can't get girlfriends, why he can't get long-term relationships. Not his fault, my fault. I haven't even been in his life for the past 13 years. They don't change unless they want to change. None of us change unless we want to change. And unless we take the active steps to make those changes. So yeah, we can sit around waiting for them to change, or we can accept. And this is something that I talk about with clients all the time. This is who they are. Like, look at this is who the person is that you're in that relationship with. You have to decide, is this something that I want to deal with for the rest of my life or no? If the answer is no, then you need to start making a plan to get out. If the answer is yes, you need to start figuring out how you are going to change to deal with how they are, even though you're not comfortable with it. So that's the important question. Am I okay with dealing with this for the rest of my life? Because you cannot sit there wasting your time. You either have to figure out how to deal with it or you have to let them go. And it's not fair to either one of you for you to stay, even when you know that it's not the right person for you. Even when you know that it's over, but you stay with them anyway, you're actually doing a disservice to them and to you. You need to be able to let go in order for both of you to move on. Great questions. Are there any other questions? Let me just see. I got a few streams going on here. All right. Oh, hey, what's up, Jill? What's up, Tiff? All right, let's see a few other people. Let's see any other questions. No, none over here. All right. Anything else? Now, another thing too is, when you're dating after a toxic relationship, your what you accept tends to be way more than what you should if you were healthy. So it's like another reason why that support from pre-divorce all the way until dating after a toxic relationship, all those steps in between, it really is so important to get that support. Coach therapy is great because it helps you look backwards. You understand the underlying stuff. Coaching, like what we do, specializes specifically in helping you get to your next goal. So if you're the pre-divorce, then let's help you get to the divorce. If you're to the divorce now, let's help you get through to the post-divorce. The post-divorce, let's help you, transform your life, create this amazing life that I'm talking about where you're excited to wake up to every day. Things are great. Okay, after that, then let's help you get to the dating part. And let's make sure you don't fall into the same patterns getting into another relationship. That way, another bad relationship. That way, somebody from the outside can actually point out the areas where you're making those mistakes. Because, it was the same thing for me. I thought I could figure it out. And I have a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm divorced, I'm free. I did the same thing. But that post-divorce is one of the most important things to really focus on working on yourself. And when you start doing the work on yourself, you're like, why did I ever think that somebody else would change? Because I want to do this, and this is not easy. I'm the one looking to make the changes. I'm admitting that I made mistakes. I know that things have to get better, and it's still hard. And when you go through that and you're like, why did I ever think that me trying to force somebody else to change was going to work? Because it is not easy. They have to be fully committed to making those changes in order to follow through. It's not easy, but it's possible, and anyone can do it. And I really hope, I wanted to share, part of my story because I really, like I said, when I started out, you can literally tell me anything. I'm a certified crisis counselor. So on top of my own experiences and my own time being in wearing all these different hats in my life, it's really given me the opportunity. And like I said, I've done a lot of traveling. I've been able to see, different perspectives. I love learning about other people. I love helping them get to their next place in their lives. And so anything you tell me is never like, oh, let me judge you for it. Let me look at how I can use that information to help you get to the next place. That's really all that matters. Because again, when you have someone that you feel that comfortable with, that you can literally tell anything to, then you can really do the really hard work and make the changes that you need to make. We've got to be honest with ourselves. We got to be honest and realize that we can't do it ourselves. Even though it's not that we're not smart enough, it's not that we're not capable. It doesn't take away us being amazing, wonderful friends for other people. It just means that this is not an area that we have an expertise in. I always say you wouldn't want someone, if you've never been in a healthy relationship, it's probably, this is not your forte. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. You just need someone to help you get to learn what that is. Just like if you were going to get brain surgery, I'm pretty sure you would not want someone who's never done brain surgery to do your brain surgery. You would want someone who's been trained. So in this area, if you had a childhood where you did not grow up with healthy patterns, where your parents were not the healthiest of role models, not saying anything against them, they just did the best they could with what they had. But if you want to relearn how to take care of yourself, then you're going to need somebody else to help you through that so that we don't make those changes or make the same mistakes, I should say. Beautiful. Are there any other questions? All right, I see a bunch of people on. Oh, I see a lot of people that join, not a lot of questions though. Judy said, no, they can't change. My ex tried and went right back to who he had been on our honeymoon after us going through 8 months of personality profile, in-depth counseling, absorbs and had so many epiphanies of why he was, but he didn't really want to change. I would say he wholeheartedly changed for 9 months, but narcissists need so much more in-depth behavioral hypnosis therapy. I mean, and again, he might have just been doing that for you. Let me placate Judy and make her happy and tell her that I'm doing all these things in order to keep her around. Again, narcissists love the arm candy. They love people that make them look good. So as long as you're making him look good, you're making him feel good. It's all about him, his ego, how he looks for everybody else. So, he did all those things, but he was still that person on the inside. He didn't really want to change. And that's something to keep in mind too. Are they changing before, and that's for all of us. Who are we changing for? It's like, if somebody is an alcoholic, so, what we deal with really is relationship addiction. But if you have an alcoholic, one of the things, or any kind of drug addict, the counselor will always say to them, who are you changing for? And if they say, well, I'm changing for all these people, the counselor often says, no, you have to change for yourself. You can have added outside influences, but you have to be number one, changing for yourself, because somebody's always going to let you down. Somebody's always going to make you feel bad. Someone's always going to not behave the way we want them to. And so if we're changing for those people, then we can turn around and say, oh, whether it's subconscious or consciously, is, oh, they let me down. Okay, so, I'm going to now go back to use my drug of choice because I was doing it for them, but they don't even care, or they're not being supportive, or, whatever. So we go back and keep doing what it is. So for Judy, it sounds like this would be, he was doing it for you. And then he was like, well, you know what? This is not what I want. I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing before. And for him, he has this consistent going from one relationship right to another one. He did not want to change that. That's what he wanted. He wanted a new supply, and he didn't want to take responsibility for what he was doing. It was everybody else's fault. It's a typical thing that they do. Great questions. Any more? Anything else? We take a sip. I have to tell you something funny. So if you know, I don't know on the different screens, if you can see, my eye is all red. And we had, this is completely off topic, but since we're hanging out, we had a snow day, and in Texas, in Houston, it doesn't snow. So we were all excited. Everyone's playing in the snow or whatever. I had an appointment with someone at noon that I had already rescheduled. So I didn't want to reschedule my kids. I'd been out all morning playing in the snow, doing whatever. So I run in to go meet for this meeting. I had to take off my sweatshirt, and I guess I was being lazy. I didn't even really think much about it. I had my glasses on, and I had a sweatshirt. I'm not used to wearing sweatshirts anymore. It's not ever that cold here in Houston. I pulled my sweatshirt over my head, and I felt my glasses go into my eye. And I was like, oh, that's uncomfortable. All right, let me take my glasses off, took my sweatshirt off, made it to the meeting. And about halfway through the meeting, I'm like, why does my eye hurt so bad? What is going on? And David's like, let me look at your eye. My whole red eye was bloodshot. The sclera, the white part, was all red. And it's because I dug my glasses into my eye. It's like, that was not my proudest moment. So I injured myself, and not even in a fun, cool way. It was literally just taking off my sweatshirt and forgetting to take off my glasses. So heads up, if you're taking off a sweatshirt, make sure you take off your glasses. Side note, anyway, which is, we all do these things. So yeah, so again, I don't judge, because we all do things. It's so funny because some of the smartest people that I've known in my life are so smart with some things. And a lot of our clients, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're professionals in all these different ways, and they're terrible when it comes to relationships. Or there's other things that they're just some of the common sense things that they're not good at. And that's okay. It's okay. We don't have to be perfect. In fact, I laugh. In fact, I know, if I'm walking and I trip on a line, I look around to see if anyone else saw, because I want to laugh with them at me. Did you see that? Because that was ridiculous. I walked on nothing, nothing happened, and I tripped. The ability to laugh at ourselves is really Courtney, you've done that before. Well, thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it. We've all had those moments where we're like, why did I do that? But that's what makes us human, right? Is all those things. And those are the things that exes could have made fun of us for, made us feel bad for. When again, that's just a human thing that we do. Like, we're not paying attention, we're trying to rush, whatever it is, and we're not thinking things clearly or thinking things through. So we've all been there. But yeah, some of the smartest people that I've known, some of the most brilliant women that I've worked with, they're really good in one aspect of their lives, and then other areas not so much. I had a friend, she was getting her doctorate, a medical doctor, and I remember waiting for her, and I was like, okay, what color is your boyfriend, or what kind of car does your boyfriend have? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, is it a truck? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, do you know what color it is? She's like, I think it's white. And I'm like, how are you so smart? Like 4.0 Carnegie Mellon, so good, and you don't even have a clue of what the guy's color is. So if it makes you feel better, I just want to say that you don't need to be the expert in all the things, but it's good to know who to ask for help from for the things that you're not an expert in. It helps. You don't have to know everything, and that's okay. And that's why too, like when you are ready to start dating and you are thinking about that, you want to look for someone who works well with who you are. So when you really know yourself, you really know what you're good at and not so good at, you can be better at choosing the right person. I think for so long when we're dating and we're like, oh, I got to prove my worthiness. I got to prove that I'm good enough. I can't seem like I don't know, or that I make mistakes, or I do dumb things sometimes, whatever. I don't want them to know any of those things about me, and we're not being real and honest with ourselves. We're human beings. We make mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of who we are. That also means finding someone that works well with that. Who's someone that loves that quirkiness about you? Who's somebody who can help in those areas that you're not so great at? And again, so it's about finding yourself and then finding someone who works well with that, not makes you feel bad about it. Not someone who's going to put you down because of those things, but instead they're going to love you more for those pieces of yourself. I had someone say to me, they're like, dancers go with dancers. The people that bring out the best in you, that you have the most fun with, that you do things and that really see you and love you and that you feel better around. Let's get more of those people into your life. Let's get more people that are there to support you and laugh with you and have fun. Let's get more of those people into your life. All right, well, that went way longer than normally we only do this for like 30 minutes, but I'm hanging out. Again, I'm sipping on my water. Are there any questions or any comments anybody wants to make? You are free to be whoever you want. And if somebody is making you feel bad about that, you have to question whether or not you want to continue spending that time with them. Are they the right fit? Are they someone who is helping you to be the best version of yourself? Or is it someone that's dragging you down? And what is it that you want for yourself? So on that note, I don't see any other questions. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, I just wanted to kind of just sit down and share. This is a judgment-free zone. This is literally my favorite thing in the world is when clients come to us and say, hey, I had this breakthrough. Hey, I was able to use my voice. I was able to host a boundary. I was able to, speak up for myself. I was able to notice when somebody had some red flags. Oh, thank you, Cassie. I appreciate it. If you can have all those beautiful things, then you can, those are the pieces. Small wins over time really make big changes. So I want you to keep in mind. And of course, if anybody's needing some more support, you can always reach out to me directly, or just comment in the comments about, just comment the word support and we will reach out to you. Judy says, I'm a member of Stephanie and David's private training, coaching, Brilliant Life Blueprint, and it's incredible. Thank you so much, Judy. I appreciate it. If anybody wants to join Judy, feel free to write support in the comments. You can always send me a private message if you don't want anyone to see you commenting. That's totally fine too. I want you to be safe and feel good to be able to, if you don't want anyone to know that you're commenting, that's fine. But the big thing is know that you're not alone. Know that you can change. Know that you are not so inherently broken that you don't deserve to have something beautiful and amazing for yourself. Courtney said, thank you. I missed part of this, but this reinforced that I'm making positive decisions in my life, set boundaries, and know my worth. Your videos help. Thank you so much, Courtney. I really appreciate it. All right, everyone. Well, it was great hanging out with all of you. If you need me for any reason, whether it's again that pre-time thinking about ending that relationship, going through the divorce or breakup on the other side of it, or you're looking to start dating again after those toxic relationships so you don't fall into other things, don't feel like you have to do this on your own. It's helpful to have that outside support to really help make sure that we're shining a light on the areas where you're making the same mistakes and to know exactly what steps we need to take in order to heal. I get it. I've been there. I wasted a lot of time trying to figure it out on my own. And my passion is helping people get to their next best place of their life sooner rather than later. You've wasted enough time on the wrong people. Time to take care of yourself. All right, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you so much for hanging out. Never forget, you are way stronger than you realize. See you next episode. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. No? And bye, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Send me a private message. Watch my videos. Bye. Why does my nose get so itchy when I'm in here?